This video will address the important topic of dealing with spam and phishing emails in Outlook.
Spam, phishing, and junk mail are unavoidable parts of having an email account. At MCC, we employ an email security service called Mimecast. It does a reasonable job of protecting you from undesirable email. Messages that Mimecast detects as junk, spam, or phishing emails are held in your Mimecast on hold folder. You will receive a daily summary of these messages. From this message, you can release the messages, which will deliver them to your inbox, or you can block the sender or permit the sender for future messages. You can access these emails also through the Mimecast personal portal, which you can access through your MCC portal. Regardless of how good a job Mimecast does, there are always going to be some messages that get through. Before we look at how to deal with these messages, let's define the three types of unwanted messages. We will look at them in order of danger. The safest of the three messages is the junk message. It typically consists of mailing lists for stores or brands, online magazines or newsletters. In this example, Elizabeth signed up for messages from a company called Royal Goo, and now receives messages like this one. The second type of message, which can be somewhat dangerous, is the spam message. Spam messages are sent indiscriminately to email addresses. They are generally trying to get you to purchase something, sign up for something, or direct you to a web page. In this example, Ben is trying to get Elizabeth to sign up with his rental listing service. These emails are typically blocked by Mimecast, but occasionally one will slip through. The third and most dangerous type of message is the phishing message. Phishing messages attempt to obtain sensitive information for malicious reasons. They do this by pretending to be trustworthy and will appear to be coming from MCC employees or reputable organizations. Phishing messages will ask the recipient to reply, click a link, or to open an attachment. In a few minutes we will look at how to identify a phishing message, but first let's look at how to deal with each of these three types of messages. The first is junk mail, and in Outlook you have two options for dealing with this. The first option is to unsubscribe. Use this option only if you signed up for these messages. If you don't remember signing up for this type of message, it could be a phishing email rather than just junk mail. Outlook has an unsubscribe feature that will analyze the message and see if it is safe to unsubscribe. If it is safe, Outlook will unsubscribe for you. In this example, Outlook is unable to verify that it is safe to unsubscribe, and so we are presented with the option to block the sender. This is the second option, to automatically put all messages from team@royalgoo.com into the junk mail folder. Clicking the block sender button will do this for us, but if we wanted to do it manually, we can right-click on the message in the inbox, select junk, and then block sender. We will get a pop-up verifying this. For spam messages, the same action should be taken. Right-click on the message, choose junk, and then block sender. Phishing emails, however, are dangerous because they are seeking sensitive information. Again, we will look at how to identify these messages next, but when you receive a phishing email, you should report it as a phishing email using the Report Phishing Email button. This will forward the message to the IT department so it can be analyzed and any necessary action taken. Phishing messages can be difficult to identify. There isn't one rule that will help you identify a phishing message. So let's look at some example phishing messages and study their characteristics and the actions that should be taken if this type of message is received. This first example is a YouTube message. There are 5 characteristics that we should note here. Number 1. This message plays to my emotions. I am curious about what the video might be, and I am afraid of missing out on something. The second characteristic, this message pretends to be from YouTube. However, if we look at the sender address, it does not really come from youtube.com, but rather youtubealerts.net. The third characteristic, this message does not contain any specific information. It does not mention my name, nor does it mention what friend of mine sent me this message. The fourth characteristic, my auntie does not have a cat. And the fifth characteristic is, my friends would not send me this type of message at work. The action that we should take for this message is to delete it or report it as phishing. This second message also plays to my emotions. I am afraid of having my credit card frozen. The second characteristic of this message, it does not specify which credit card company it is coming from. Rather, it uses the generic domain yourcreditcards.net. The email does not address me by name, rather it uses Dear Customer. The fourth characteristic is there is a spelling mistake in the last line. And the fifth characteristic is, again, I would not receive this type of email message at work. The appropriate action for this type of message would be to delete it or report it as phishing. This message plays to my emotions, again, describing victims and survivors. This message pretends to come from the Salvation Army, but the domain at the top, it comes from Salivation Army, which looks very close to Salvation Army. The third characteristic is this email does not specify who gave them my information. And fourthly, the message does not specify what disaster they are raising funds for. This message does contain personal information about me, namely my first name, and therefore it is targeted more specifically at me. This message should be reported to IT using the Report Phishing email button. This next message also plays to my emotions, saying I have a court case that I need to prepare for, and that's scary. It also warns of consequences of ignoring the message. The second characteristic is this message does contain my name and that of my supervisor. However, my supervisor would have brought this to my attention if she knew there was a court case against me. Again, this message does contain personal information, but it is personal information that could be obtained easily enough through online sources. If I have any doubt, I could call my supervisor to see if it is legitimate, but I'm pretty sure it is a phishing message targeted specifically at me. I should therefore report this message using the Report Phishing button. This next message, yet again, plays to my emotions. I am both scared and angry that I have received a speeding ticket. This message does contain a lot of personal information, and there is not really anything that indicates that this is a fraudulent message. The domain and content look very legitimate. Furthermore, I do work on Plaza Drive, so it is possible that I would receive a speeding ticket there. However, that information is available online. This email is targeted specifically at me, so I should notify IT using the Report Phishing button. This next email is very sophisticated. As of the time of this recording, it is one of the trickiest types of phishing email to spot. It plays on my emotion of wanting to please my boss. This message is typically sent pretending to be from the boss to an employee, and it asks me to do something right away, and it has an excuse about not being able to take a phone call, making email the only way to verify that this is a legitimate message. It'll also ask you to note that the email address looks like it's coming from mcc.org, but in fact it is rncc.org. This type of message may contain a lot of personal information. This one addresses me by name, identifies my boss, but more sophisticated attacks may contain even more information about me or my boss. The lesson here is that if your boss requests you to do something by email involving any transaction of money or sending of sensitive information, make absolutely sure that that is a legitimate request. Verify with a Skype message or a phone call or some other method of communication. This type of targeted message should be reported to the IT department using the Report Phishing button. As you can see, there are very sophisticated phishing emails. All of these emails are requesting that I do something. I click a link, open an attachment, or reply to a message. Clicking a link or opening an attachment can infect the MCC network with viruses or malware, and replying to a phishing email will provide personal information about MCC's email system and organizational structure, which can then be used in future attacks. All phishing emails will ask you to perform some kind of action, and most contain an emotional reason for you to do so. If you realize after the fact that you have fallen for a phishing email, for example, you click a link, open an attachment, or reply to an email, notify the IT department immediately. If your computer starts doing anything unusual, press the power button for 5 seconds until it turns off, and leave it off until instructed to turn it back on by IT staff.
For further training on Outlook, you are encouraged to watch the other videos in this Introduction to Outlook series.